friends, people I never knew, people I never thought about associating with. I don't know what it is. Talk to me. Check it out. Hey, front acres with a mansion on my land. Full jacuzzis and my neighbors can't stand the way I live. Is oh so fast. Ain't got your ladies and prime time is all that.
Whoa, Dion. It's not that kind of prime time.
Yeah, man. It's primetime fantasy football on Next Level Radio.
Well, alright. Yeah.
And welcome to the premiere broadcast of primetime fantasy football here on Next Level Radio. I am Adam Gorey. I'm joined from the beautiful city of Los Angeles by Steve Richards. What's going on, Steve?
Hey, bud. How you doing? I appreciate the invite. I'm glad we could make the hosting bi-coastal for now, at least. Not for much longer, but we got the whole country covered, so...
Yeah, East Coast, West Coast. I mean, it's only 3 o'clock or 4 o'clock where you're at now. But
yeah.
When you come back over to the East Coast, the not so nice part of the United States, maybe we can be in studio together a couple times.
Yeah, that'll be exciting, and I can also might be able to talk from a city that actually has a football team about fantasy football. So
that's a good point.
That could be good as well.
I mean, I guess you kind of have to talk about the Raiders.
Yeah, I guess I could.
Being out there. Anyway, so this is Primetime Fantasy Football, basically, just to give you a heads up, is going to be, we will start going weekly in July. Right now we're just going to do this premiere episode to kind of recap what happened this offseason and everything like that, get you ready for your drafts and whatnot. I know some leagues draft really early, which I think is pretty stupid, but, we always try and wait as late as humanly possible. But anyway,
it's not Labor Day weekend.
Yeah, anything but Labor Day weekend. We're gonna recap the draft. We're gonna recap all the off-season free agency stuff, trade acquisitions. Gonna talk to you about some big players who had either an injury last year or an injury type of surgery deal in the off-season, and if we think they're gonna be good to go, or when we think you should draft them, or, if we think you should avoid them altogether. But first we want to kind of explain a little bit about ourselves, introduce ourselves. It is the premiere broadcast. So I am Adam Gorey. I am the co-founder of this lovely radio station, Next Level Radio. Do a show with Ben Beck every Sunday at 6 p.m. Eastern Time called the Next Level Showcast, which is a pop culture centered show, movie entertainment, stuff like that. And also we do some interviews and whatnot throughout the week. So definitely check out the website for both that show and this show, Primetime Fantasy Football. It's nextlevelradioonline.com or facebook.com/nextlevelradioonline. Twitter is at NXT Level Radio, and then we're also on iTunes and YouTube. You can just search for us. Steve, you want to give yourself a quick bio?
Yeah, absolutely. My name is Steve Richards, as Adam so eloquently explained in the introduction. I am currently the COO of an internet company called Sports Networker, which is a company that helps people find jobs in sports. That doesn't necessarily have to do with fantasy football or professional athletes. It's more for people who are looking to find a job after getting a degree in sports management and things like that. You can check that out at sportsnetworker.com if you so choose. I just have a sports background. I just always enjoyed sports, all types of fantasy sports, baseball, football, basketball, even a little bit of soccer, if you can believe that. I'm just a sports fan who knows how the fantasy world works. You can follow me. I'm always talking about sports and always talking pop culture as well. Love the Next Level Showcast. So it's an honor to be on this Next Level Radio with you guys doing a show. You can catch me on Twitter at srichards31. We can discuss anything you want to discuss there, including sports, fantasy football, and a little bit of pop culture.
Yeah, I guess I'll give out my personal one too. It's at Adam Next Level. And also, if you have any questions for the show, if you want your fantasy football questions answered for the next time we're on, I think we're going to go weekly in the beginning of July. So either July 2nd or July 9th. We're going to be a Wednesday show. So email us at primetime at nextlevelradioonline.com, and we'll do our best to get to all the questions that we get. So let's before we get right into it, like I was about to say, we're also going to do a league, for fun. It's not for a prize or anything. Fantasy football league, though. Steve and I are going to partake in it. So I know a couple of the bigger fantasy football podcasts from those mainstream radio or mainstream TV stations and whatnot. I know one of them does a league, but they don't partake in it. We will be partaking in it. So depending on the level of interest, we'll get either a 10, 12, or if we get enough people, 16-team league. And the winner of that will automatically get into next year's league, and automatically will get the first-round pick into next year's league in the draft. So the way we're going to be doing draft... What's that?
That sounds like a prize to me.
That is actually kind of a prize. The way we're going to be doing that draft order is going to be determined by picking out of a hat. Good old-fashioned picking out of a hat. And we'll make sure we do that one in the same room so we have a witness.
Yeah. Maybe we'll have your wife in there. She keeps you honest. I know that.
Yeah, there you go.
We'll have somebody in there that'll keep us honest.
Exactly. All right. Well, let's get right into it. First, we're going to cover the draft for you. The draft, we're going to do the first 2 rounds. We're going to try and get through as many of the skill position people as we can. We're not going to cover Greg Robinson, who the Rams got from Auburn, because he doesn't really have any fantasy value. Other than maybe
an offensive tackle.
Yeah, maybe for Zach Stacy. So first up, I will make an honorable mention to Jadeveon Clowney just because he was the first overall pick. So, what do you think about the Texans' defense? You think that might be like a sleeper?
They certainly have all sorts of talent as far as just skill positions go, and Clowney adds to it. I know they were thinking about maybe not even taking Clowney, even though he's clearly the best athlete in the draft, just because of the talent that they had across the defensive line and in the defense in general. So I would think that he's either going to take attention away from Watt, or Watt will take attention away from him, and either way, somebody on the defensive end is going to be getting some serious pressure on the quarterback. So sacks are worth points in fantasy, so there's always that, and quarterback pressure can lead to turnovers as well. So
yeah, I agree. Let me check, because I don't know where, there aren't too many drafts out there, so I can't tell you what their average draft position was. But I know they're always pretty decent as far as fantasy defenses go.
Sure.
Last year they were not that great, though. I think they were. I'm looking here. I don't even think they're in the top 25 for last year. Yeah, they're not in the top 25 last year, so they should definitely improve on that. Actually, last year the top scoring defense was in most standard leagues was Kansas City. So I think they'll definitely improve at least. So going down the list here, you got Blake Bortles for the Jags. You think he's going to have any type of relevance this season? It's hard for any Jaguars quarterback to have any fantasy relevance.
Yeah, I love Blake Bortles. I had a running joke with an intergroup of friends about how awesome Blake Bortles is. We were awfully confident that he would win in that BCS Bowl and take Central Florida as far as he could possibly take them. Like you said, the Jaguars, in the sense they drafted a bunch of. We'll talk about this a little bit later as we go over round 2. They drafted a couple talents to help him out in the second round. So I guess there's always that potential, and you have to assume that he gets plugged in right away and thrown into the fire. So he's at least going to accrue some experience and some statistics. But he might be more on the sleeper level and not somebody that you're drafting right away, not necessarily along the Robert Griffin lines in the sense of I'm going to draft a rookie quarterback right away because I'm confident in his abilities.
Yeah, I'm thinking if you're in a redraft league, I might not take him at all. I might wait to see the first couple games and see what happens. I assume he's going to be the starting quarterback. Who else do they? They're not really. I
know they traded Gabbert.
Yeah, they got rid of Gabbert.
Room. Yeah, it was to make room. And I'm pretty sure that he's. if you're going to draft a guy 3rd overall in the NFL in 2014, then you might as well just throw him in the fire and see what happens.
Yeah, I mean, but like I said, I mean, if you are in a keeper league, I might take a flyer on him in the later round, especially,
Sure.
You and I are in a keeper league where the following season, you lose whatever draft pick you drafted that guy in. So what I would do is take him in like one of those later rounds, take a flyer on him, and if he does turn out to be decent, unlike other previous Jaguars quarterbacks, you get a decent quarterback, and maybe even just, he might end up just being a decent backup. You never know.
Yeah, absolutely. And looking at it now, Chad Henne is their quarterback, is their starter.
That's
currently.
right.
There's a possible mentor-mentee thing going on there, or they could just decide that they want Blake Bortles to take it and run. So, like you said, late flyer. Never know what it could turn into.
Yeah, but I mean, if I'm in a redraft league, I might, I'm sure there are better options out there, you know what I mean? Especially because Henne, he could potentially have, like, the starting job for half the season.
Yeah, he's always had some value, at least. He's a good veteran professional in that sense.
Right, yeah, and, okay, so next one up, we have Sammy Watkins for the Bills, who, this isn't really an opinion on the draft type of show, but I personally think that might be a little too high for Sammy Watkins being drafted in general. But as far as fantasy impact, I could see him making a little bit of noise this year. I have a feeling, though, he might be overdrafted.
Yeah, in fantasy-wise, you mean?
Yeah.
And not just 4th overall in the NFL draft.
Yeah.
This I can't get the image of C.J. Spiller out of my head from the fact that he's fast as can be and from Clemson and on the Bills. And C.J. Spiller is so inconsistent in the way that if you get one nick that negates your speed at all, you're kind of negated in total value.
Yeah, I mean, look at Percy Harvin.
Yeah,
I mean,
absolutely.
He was out most of the season with that hip injury, but even when he came back, I mean, he had a couple, I think, okay games, but he didn't do much. I mean, the speed guys who are very reliant on speed, if something happens, like if he has to stay in good condition, first off, because if he pulls a ham, you forget it.
Yeah, absolutely. No, I agree with you. Yeah, he might not be somebody to go after too high. Again, I mean, when we talk about these rookies, we might be able to say the same thing about all of them in the sense of, except for maybe a very exceptional few where we talk about the taking a flyer if you're in a keeper league type thing,
Yeah, I think Watkins will go in redraft leagues, but I personally wouldn't take him. I mean, it's tough to say. It really does kind of depend on how how camp works out. But I mean, they did get rid of Stevie Johnson, so he's going to be put right in there. So I mean, just having a starting wide receiver in the league is good. It's just a little bit of a mystery, it all depends how they use him.
Yeah, for sure. I agree.
So, I mean, maybe watch a couple preseason games before you decide where you're going to take him. And first-round wide receivers have a tendency to underwhelm in general.
Yeah, there's a lot of hype around them. But a lot of the times, unfortunately, with first-round wide receivers, it comes with a lot of ego as well. That could get in their way, being a 20-year-old kid in the league.
I'd like to remind you that Darius Hayward-Bay was a first-round pick.
Yeah, exactly.
He was a reach, but still a first-round pick. One who I actually think will be one of the few exceptions to the first round, Mike Evans for the Buccaneers. I really like his size.
Absolutely.
Especially him being opposite Vincent Jackson. He's not going to get all the coverage.
Exactly.
He's 6'5". I mean, he's got to be a red zone target. If he's not a red zone target, they're a bunch of idiots down there in Tampa Bay.
Yeah, and then they got rid of their idiot head coach in Shiano, so he seems to have his head on his shoulders a little bit.
Yeah, they got a little smarter with that.
Yeah, and like you said, we were just talking about if you have a starting wide receiver, then that's good. Mike Evans gets thrown right into the starting role. They don't have anybody else in line, so he's absolutely somebody to watch out for. And like you said, at 6'5", and he ran some kind of ridiculous speed at the combine. He's just one of those freak athletes that's worth taking in the top 10, which is where he went. So he's definitely somebody that's going to get some good looks and deserving of good looks. He's going to get a lot of hype. He's going to be somebody that nobody's going to forget about. Even the guys in your league that aren't necessarily big football fans, they're going to know who Mike Evans is coming out because he's going to get a lot of hype in the drafting coming up.
Yeah, I mean, I think once you see preseason go, he's going to be one of those. Remember Jordan Cameron last year was getting a lot of preseason hype. Now Mike Evans probably will go a little bit higher in the draft than Cameron.
Yeah, absolutely.
But, and he's kind of, size-wise, he's almost like a tight end.
Yeah, he is.
He's actually...
Right. He's got the speed of a wide receiver. He's got that... He's only 230 pounds looking at this.
Yeah.
So he's got the speed, and he's a little quicker, which makes him dangerous.
Yeah, and, I mean, I'm not sure. I haven't seen him a lot in college, so I'm not sure exactly how his hands are. But from what I have seen, I mean, he's got decent hands. Yeah,
they're incredible. He was the go-to for Texas A&M. Johnny, it would be, when you watch a Texas A&M game, you'd watch Johnny Manziel run around for 15 seconds in the pocket and throw it straight up in the air, and Mike Evans would always be the one underneath it catching it. So.
Yeah, and that's kind of an interesting question. Do you think, this is kind of fantasy related, do you think, who benefited more from that duo in college? Do you think it was Manziel or Evans? I'm kind of leaning Manziel.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, absolutely, because... I mean, Johnny Manziel is definitely accurate, but when you can just I'm not exaggerating about some of the plays where he just chucks it straight up in the air and Mike Evans goes up and gets it. And that obviously that makes you look good because you're the one that because the quarterback gets a lot of the credit for making the play.
Yeah,
but the wide receiver goes up and gets it. That'll help out your highlight reel for sure.
Yeah, I agree. So moving on to someone who's actually a tight end, Eric Ebron. Is it Ebron or Ebron?
Ebron.
Okay, that's what I thought. It should be Ebron.
Yeah, this guy is a freak.
So now I know the Lions have. I'm trying to remember who the hell their other tight end was that they had. They don't have Pettigrew anymore, right?
They do still have Pettigrew.
Okay,
but I would expect Ebron to take over that role in short order, just because he's a big old guy, and he ran the fastest time amongst tight ends at the combine. So, I mean, he ran like a 4.6, and I'm pretty sure I remember Mayock saying people want to compare him to Vernon Davis, and he's not as quick as Vernon Davis, but he's a better athlete than Vernon Davis.
He's a big guy, too. He's 250.
Yeah, exactly. If you're going to tell me that somebody is going to play tight end and be a better athlete than Vernon Davis, you're going to pique my interest.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, he could be, this year's Jordan Cameron. I mean, I don't see him... I see him in drafts being forgotten by a lot of people.
Sure.
You know what I mean?
End, yeah.
And possibly slipping into those later rounds.
Yeah.
Because that happens a lot with tight ends. People just forget about him. And if you're going to take a tight end in the top 10, he's got to be pretty decent, I would think.
Exactly. Yeah, that's 100% true.
Now,
I agree.
Switching it up to the NFC East, you got the Giants, who took Odell Beckham at 12th overall, 5'11", 198, so kind of a small guy.
Yeah, a slot guy, I would think. I'm not even 100% sure where he currently fits in their
scheme,
in their depth chart.
Well, yeah, I mean, they got rid of Nix.
Yeah.
Cruz is their slot guy.
Yeah, that's true.
They're going to have to put him on the outside. I don't know if I like a guy with that size on the outside.
Yeah, I mean, I don't. Maybe they'll switch him in and out. I don't know.
Yeah, he's one that I think I would pass on in the draft.
Yeah, I wouldn't be 100% interested in. I don't know that anybody else is going to be interested either. You might be able to get him on free agency if he blows up 1 week or something. Yeah,
and another guy that I probably would pass on in the draft, even with Drew Brees throwing it to him, would be Brandon Cooks, taking 20th from the Saints. 5'10", 189, even smaller than Odell. And just Drew Brees spreads it around. I mean, if it's not Jimmy Graham, you don't know who it's going to.
That's 100% true. I mean, that's always true. Even with you get established receivers like Colston and Meacham and them. Like even Colston's been splitting catches, and he used to be a juggernaut, but now Drew Brees just likes to throw it around to 8 different guys, and everybody gets a chance.
Here's a little reminiscing for you. Do you remember when Colston first came into the league, because I'll never forget this because he was on my team because I picked him up. He was actually listed as a wide receiver and tight end.
Yep. Yeah, that was a nice little cheat code. I think I had him too.
He was my tight end. I was like, oh my God, I just hit the freaking lottery.
Yeah, exactly. And that's who he used to be. I guess he used to be like Jimmy Graham.
They might as well list Jimmy Graham as a wide receiver tight end too.
Yeah, exactly.
But yeah, like I said, I mean, he's going to get like Lance Moore numbers. You know what I mean? He's going to have a few really good games, but he's going to have a few busts. You know, he's going to have a few where he get one catch for 12 yards or something like that.
Yeah, like Lance Moore. He isn't even on the team anymore. So
yeah, and next up we have the talk of the town, Johnny Manziel on the Browns. What do you think?
Yeah, he'll make the impact.
He's gonna start.
Beat up Brian Hoyer, and he's the starter.
He's gonna start at some point, even if it's not the first couple games. You know he's gonna get playing time. He's another one that I feel like though people are gonna reach on.
Oh, absolutely.
But
he's all name.
Yeah,
well, not all name. I shouldn't say that. He's a good player.
Right.
But his name certainly precedes his reputation.
yeah, for sure. But the one thing I will say that he might be worth taking, even reaching a little, and I hate to say this because I don't know how much success he's going to have, but rushing yards are always an extra good thing to have with the QB. I mean, when Tim Tebow was in the league, he was putting up good fantasy numbers.
Exactly. Yeah, and Johnny Manziel can actually throw it.
Yeah. Go
ahead.
Well, I mean, he's going to be missing his best receiver. That's the only thing you got to worry about. Because Josh Gordon's probably going to be gone the whole year.
Yeah, that's certainly true. And they don't have much by way of people behind him, which is tough. But like you said, rushing yardage. And yeah, I mean, I could see him. He just makes plays, which is always good in fantasy sense.
He's going to have rushing touchdowns.
For sure. Absolutely, he will.
And I mean, he'll go ahead.
No, I had something, then I lost my train of thought.
Well, he's going to have Jordan Cameron, and he's going to have, I mean, this is kind of in the next segment, but he's going to have, what the hell's his name? The running back from Houston.
Ben Tate.
Ben Tate, thank you. I had the wrong page pulled up. I'm looking at trades. Yeah, he's going to have Ben Tate, and it'll be interesting to see what Ben Tate can do as a starter, but we'll get into that later. But, I mean, he does have a little bit of talent around him, even without Josh Gordon.
Yeah, and then, again, in a later segment, but Miles Austin as well.
Yeah, I don't know about
he has
that.
left in the tank.
I don't know if that's a positive or a negative.
Yeah, that's a good point.
If he's on the field.
But yeah, I agree.
Next up we have, let me see here, I lost my track here. Okay. Kelvin Benjamin, taken by the Panthers at 28 overall. Another big guy, 6'5", 240. He's actually bigger than Mike Evans.
Yeah, and you'll recognize him from the national championship game. He caught the game winner in the national championship game where Jameis Winston essentially just threw it up as high as he could, and Kelvin Benjamin went up and got it. Those guys are always valuable.
Yeah, he's an interesting one to me.
Yeah, go ahead.
No, I was just going to say, he's interesting. I'm not sure exactly how I feel about him.
Yeah, I mean, at the same time, though, when we talk depth chart and opportunity, when Jericho Cotchery and Jason Avant are your two
That's true.
guys that are in front of you, I'm not sure that you have to do too much work to make somebody notice and get on the field a bunch.
Yeah, because Steve Smith's gone.
Opportunity certainly there. Cam's going to love a big target to throw outside too. He's certainly, I would think, a flyer. I would certainly pick him up before we were talking about Brandon Cooks and Odell Beckham.
Yeah,
I'd certainly go there before either one of those guys.
I agree, and Cam Newton has a freaking cannon.
Yep. He sure does.
Yeah, and again, we'll get into this later because he did have an off-season surgery, but he has played 16 games all 3 seasons. So, I mean, he's most likely going to have Cam Newton throwing it to him all year.
Yeah, which is a good thing. He will definitely benefit from that.
That's a very good thing. And last one for the first round, just squeaking into the first round, Teddy Bridgewater for the Vikings, who I really like as a player. The Vikings, though, I don't really like as a team.
Yeah, that's fair. Especially they had a coaching change, which we keep talking about things we're going to talk about later, but they
Maybe we should did this
they went
last.
with a coaching change, who's going to be a little bit more defensive / running minded, and I think Minnesota has a running back. I can't quite pinpoint what his name is at this moment.
I think it's all day.
Oh yeah, Peterson. So yeah. Plus, they have Matt Castle in place. He knows the system. He's been there. So I'm not sure that this is Teddy Bridgewater's year, really.
Yeah, I kind of agree. I think, and this might actually even be the smart thing for them to do, but I kind of think that he might sit out the majority of the year.
Yeah, exactly. Give him a little bit of learning.
And that's not a bad thing. But as far as fantasy impact this year, I'd say probably not too much.
Yeah, for sure. I'd go with a pass on that one.
Yeah, he's not even a leg guy. Like, he doesn't do a lot of running.
Yeah, exactly.
And as far as wide receivers go, I mean, Cordarrelle Patterson is good, but that's really all he's got. Greg Jennings is old.
Yeah.
Who else? Jarius Wright. I'm looking at their roster now. It's not that great.
Yeah, for sure.
Did they add Jerome Simpson, right? Or no, they had him last year.
Yeah, I think he was like a mid-season type of guy.
Yeah,
he was hurt.
He's mostly known for his backflip, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Or his front flip, whatever it was. All right, so getting into round 2 real quick. Derek Carr for the Raiders, taken 4th overall in the 2nd round.
Yeah, I don't see much. They traded for Schaub. He seems more like a backup plan.
Yeah,
he's got a good arm.
Yeah,
but
I'm going to say no for fantasy value.
in short pass.
Then you got Marquise Lee on the Jags. So Bortles, if he ever plays, we'll get to throw to him. Otherwise, he'll have Henny throwing it to him. But yeah, I like that, and he's a first round talent who went in the 2nd round.
Sure is.
He's got good size. He's 6 foot 192, so that means he's got good speed. But he's not a really small guy that's only going to rely on speed. So,
he's got the talent. He had Heisman hype as the beginning of the year, which I guess is completely different talent-wise. But, I mean, people are still talking about him as one of the best players in college football. He kind of pulled a teammate, Matt Barkley, in the sense that he came out a year too late. I feel like if he came out a year earlier, he might have been a top 10 talent, or a top 10 pick. So, like you said, first-round talent drafted in the 2nd round. So
yeah, and we do have a message board on the Mixler page. If you're listening, you can leave comments. We'll try and get to ones that we can. It's kind of tough running through them all. But I saw one in here about Blackman, Justin Blackman. He's probably not playing this year, so I mean he doesn't even have to worry about Justin Blackman taking any reps or anything like that.
Yeah, he's a problem guy anyway.
Yeah,
he wouldn't be too much of an issue.
He's a Josh Gordon. Because I mean, both of them got suspended last year. Gordon played more last year because Blackman got suspended again before the season ended. But all right, so moving on to 10th in the 2nd round was Jordan Matthews with the Eagles.
I know.
Another good-sized guy, 6'3", 212. But they're saying they're going to be playing him in the slot.
Yeah, I think that Chip Kelly just likes to say things to make people think.
It's possible.
And then he just goes. But, I mean, this guy, when you lead granted the SEC is a running / defense league, historically.
Right.
But when you lead a conference all time in receiving, I'm going to be okay with having you on my team. I thought this was quite a good pick, and I'm excited to see what he can actually do because he's a freak athlete. Vanderbilt's number one play was throw a bubble screen out to Jordan Matthews. He makes 2 people miss and runs 60 yards for a touchdown.
Yeah.
So, I mean, he's definitely got that kind of make you miss talent, and at 6'3", if he can make some guys miss, that's just an added bonus.
Yeah, he is a guy who I think can have some impact this year, depending what they do. I mean, there's so many, even with losing Deshaun Jackson, they still have some decent weapons. I don't know if I'd call Riley Cooper a weapon, but with Sproles,
when you're talking
McCoy.
Yeah, when you're talking fantasy, and when you're talking Eagles, they're going to run enough plays to spread it around to as many people as they can. So
yeah, that's the thing. I mean, they put up points and they run a lot of plays. So I mean, that's worth taking a flyer right there.
I agree, absolutely.
So next one you got is Paul Richardson, 13th pick in the second round with the Seahawks, who I'm not overly familiar with. Paul Richardson.
Yeah, he's not. I mean, you can just look at his size again and see that he's 6 foot 175. He's one of the smaller guys. At the same time, the Seahawks, I mean, they aren't too deep in the. They're a little bit like the Saints, and they like to spread it around. They don't have too many big name receivers, so he has a chance to make an impact somewhere in training camp. But I wouldn't go out of my way to see how he's doing, to see where I want to go with him.
Yeah, he's kind of. I think he's kind of a pass for me.
Yeah.
You know, Russell Wilson, he's a good quarterback, but he's not necessarily a stat quarterback. He doesn't necessarily rack up a whole lot of passing yards. I
can see that. Yeah, he's more like a Johnny Manziel that you were just talking about, where he's always going to score because of his running abilities.
Right.
And you have a little bit of stuff there. You get some running touchdowns for you, but throwing the ball, they don't throw it all that much.
Is he even going to start, Richardson? Because, I mean, obviously Percy Harvin's going to start.
Yeah.
And then would they start Rice and Baldwin?
Yeah, they like that Baldwin a lot. I would certainly guess. Jermaine Kearse was a little bit underrated last year, just football wise,
right? Not
necessarily fantasy wise, but
he's a good blocker.
He's a pretty good player too.
If you got fantasy points from blocking, first round pick. So safe to say, kind of a pass for Paul Richardson for both of us.
Yeah, for sure.
Jace Amaro with the Jets was taken. He's a tight end, 17th in the second round.
Yeah.
I don't know much about him either. He's a Texas Tech guy.
Yeah. He's just a big guy, a big old tight end guy. He's not necessarily somebody that, again, I would look for.
Yeah.
You don't really need to be, in the sense that you don't need to be looking at second tight ends on teams, because you only need one tight end for your fantasy team.
Right.
And right now, I'm not sure that he has the job, so he's not really somebody to look out for.
Tight ends are few and far between, rookie tight ends that I would end up drafting at all.
Yeah, for sure. Speaking of which, with your next name.
Troy Nicholas with the Cardinals, the big dude out in Notre Dame. 6'6", 270.
Yeah, big guy.
That's a big target.
I don't know where you were, like you were mentioning, don't know too much about him, but if you're going to tell me that a tight end 6'6", 270, I immediately think blocking tight end.
Yeah.
So, I mean, if he has good hands and things like that, he's certainly a red zone threat at 6'6", 270, but I'm not 100% sure where he's at.
Yeah, he's a guy that I would pass on in all leagues.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. All right, so we'll try and run through these next ones pretty quick because it's already halfway through the show. Devontae Adams with the Packers. You think he can have any fantasy impact? I'm leaning towards no.
Yeah.
Just because I feel like Aaron Rodgers but likes guys that are familiar with the system a little bit more. So,
absolutely.
Maybe in a couple years, but this year I think he's a pass for me. I mean, maybe you take a late round flyer on him if you're in a keeper league, like last round. Especially if you're in a league where you lose the pick that you keep him in. So, I mean, if you take him in the 15th round, it's basically a free pick.
Yeah, sure, absolutely. Yeah, that's been a bit of a common theme through here where we've talked about flyers as well at the end of rounds. That's kind of where we're at in this territory. We might even, like you said, for the sake of time, we might just maybe pick one or two guys.
Let's just for these next ones, you want to just give a flyer or pass? Because none of them we're not going to draft any of them early.
Yeah, absolutely.
Although I will say this next one, you might think about, depending how camp plays out, you might think about taking him in the mid rounds. Bishop Sankey for Tennessee.
Yeah. For sure. I mean, they're certainly looking for someone to take over. So
yeah, Sean Green's I think 28. So I mean but he knows the system. So I could easily see them using Sean Green more.
Yeah. And in our flyer or pass format, I would definitely go with flyer.
Yeah, I would do flyer, but I would not reach.
Yeah, for sure.
Because I mean, last year I remember all the hype with. I mean, you had three basically rookie running backs that were getting a lot of hype. Lamar Miller, Eddie Lacy, and Le'Veon Bell. And really, Eddie Lacy's the only one who panned out. Le'Veon Bell had a decent year on a pretty bad Steelers team. But, rookie running backs don't. It all depends. A lot of people or a lot of systems now are starting to kind of wean them in instead of just giving them the job.
Yeah, absolutely.
Next, you got the 49ers, Carlos Hyde. I would say probably a pass for me for him.
Yeah, he was good at Ohio State, but they drafted Michael James one year, and he didn't see one touch in his rookie year. So I'd talk about liking who you like in the system and being familiar with the system. So
yeah,
he's definitely somebody not to reach on or not even take a flyer on necessarily.
Yeah, here's a guy that I think Steve's going to take in the first round. Allen Robinson from Penn State. The Jags took him. Best receiver in the league already. Yeah, but he actually does have a lot of talent. He was one of the best receivers in Penn State history, actually. He's got some good size. He's got really good hands. And he just has a knack of getting open. And like I said, I mentioned it when we were talking about Bortles, and then we talked about Marquise Lee. And now they have Allen Robinson. So they're looking to go young, Jacksonville, which is a good thing. Yeah.
And it also might mean they might just throw their guys out there and let them play, you know?
Yeah, true. He could see a lot of playing time.
Yeah, for sure.
I would take Marquise Lee first.
Not just because I'm biased. Yeah.
Yeah, I'd take a flyer.
Yeah.
Jimmy Garoppolo, I think we can say pass. Taken by the Patriots at the end of the second round.
I'm not sure he's going to beat out Tom Brady. Maybe next year.
I don't think we need to go into that one. And then last one, Jarvis Landry, wide receiver for the Dolphins.
Yeah, another smaller guy.
Yeah, 5'11".
Yeah, I'm not 100% sure on him.
I'm saying pass. It's the Dolphins.
Yeah, I could see that. Yeah, for sure. That's a good enough reason for me.
Mike Wallace can't figure it out, so we'll just leave it at that.
Yeah, I'll go with that.
So that's the first two rounds there. Let's go right into the off-season acquisitions. So free agents, trades, stuff like that. Let's bust through trades quick because there's not too many of them that I see on here.
Yeah,
so
there's at least not too many impact ones.
Right. Stevie Johnson was traded from the Bills to the Niners. We kind of already mentioned that. I don't really see a place for him on that team.
That's fair. I don't know.
Not fantasy-wise.
It's a big name trade. A lot of people know who Stevie Johnson is.
Mm-hmm.
And when he was good, he was really good. But San Francisco has a lot of talent. I don't know. I mean, he's probably the number 2, or he's probably the number 3 or 4. Might battle with John Baldwin.
Yeah, they got Crabtree and Anquan Bolden. I mean, I don't see him beating out either of those two.
Yeah, Anquan Bolden is the ageless one, so he's certainly not better than that. He might be a stretch guy. They might just send him out deep and see if they can chuck it as far as they can now with Kaepernick's brand new shiny contract.
Yeah.
And they might just have Kaepernick go as far as he can and see if Stevie Johnson can gunner it and get it. But like you said, it might be tough for him to break through. A bit like Manningham, where they didn't really have a use for him.
Yeah, exactly. Next, you got Terrell Pryor going to the Seahawks. Little to none fantasy impact here.
Yeah,
unless Russell Wilson gets hurt.
Next. Yeah, exactly. There's no reason to even think about him unless Russell Wilson gets hurt.
Yeah. Next up, you have Mike Williams going to the Bills from Tampa Bay. Obviously they just drafted what's his face? I already forget his damn name. Sammy Watkins. But other than that, maybe a little value late rounds. Mike Williams is often forgotten, and he does put up decent games once in a while. I wouldn't plan on him being a 2 or even 3 wide receiver, maybe a 4 or 5.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. I mean, for the Bills, he's a number 2 wide receiver, which for you, if you get him as a number 4 or 5, wouldn't be a bad option, just because you're probably only going to be using him when somebody has a bye week. So at least when somebody else has a bye week, you know that your backup wide receiver is going to be playing and seeing the ball at least. So, I mean, it's not the worst scenario, but it's not.
I'd rather have him over Miles Austin.
What's that?
I'd rather have him over Miles Austin.
Oh, for sure. Absolutely. I mentioned Miles Austin, and then I almost wanted to immediately redact my statement in the sense that I'm not even sure he's going to play again this year. So
yeah. The next one, huge fantasy impact. Jeremy Zuta, going to the Ravens
yeah,
from the
sure.
Bucks guard center. Opens up the holes for whatever suspended running back is running in Baltimore. Next, you have Matt Schaub going to the Raiders, which we had mentioned earlier. He had such a rough year last year. I got to think he bounces back a little.
Sure.
But
I mean, he could get worse.
Yeah.
I guess he could get worse.
Definitely not a QB1. Maybe a decent bye week quarterback depending on matchups. But he's going to be a guy that's going to be available. Nobody's going to draft him, most likely, I wouldn't think.
I would agree.
If you're in a league where people are drafting Matt Schaub, I would like to be in your league with you.
Sure, absolutely. Sign me up. He doesn't really have any weapons. Oakland's always had that problem. They added somebody. They added James Jones, who immediately becomes their number one receiver. I don't know that he has too much of a capability of being a number one receiver, but you never know.
Yeah, we'll see. But yeah, I would pass on Schaub, and he's going to be available. Take a look a couple weeks before your quarterback has a bye, see who he's playing, and maybe pick him up.
Yeah, for sure.
I mean, he had a lot of throwing yards when he was in Texas or in Houston.
Yeah, and he might depend on his matchup. Depending on where your quarterback has a bye, you can match up and see who he's playing in that week. Yeah,
exactly. Next one, we have Darren Sproles going to the Eagles from New Orleans, and this is an interesting one because he's 30 years old, and you know the whole thing with 30-year-old running backs.
Yeah,
but he's in a Chip Kelly offense.
Exactly. He's that much running back. Is he really going to play? They're running back in the sense of turning around and hand it off to him. You already have one of the best running backs in the league in LaShawn McCoy. I see him more of as a scat back, somebody who they swing it out wide to and set up some nice blocking for. He might not even get that many touches, which isn't good for fantasy, but I would think that the impact that he makes with those touches is going to be big. I think that he's definitely worth having.
Yeah, and
I like the fit. That's all.
Yeah, and if it's a PPR league, he's always PPR.
Absolutely.
He's always good for PPR. He's going to get some catches, especially in a Chip Kelly offense.
And he might get even more now. We've already mentioned the Eagles a little bit with how many plays they run. So
yeah, and remember, shovel passes count as passes.
Yeah, perfect.
I would really love to see them use both of them in the backfield.
Yeah, I'd certainly think that's not out of the question. I'm sure Chip Kelly's brain is turning somehow and getting them both involved in there and sending them both out on passing routes.
And Bryce Brown's gone.
Yeah, absolutely. Oh no, Sproles is in line. There's no playing time issues. He will get plenty of playing time. It's just you see how many touches he will get and what the impact will be on those touches. Like you said, the age, but he hasn't really proven that the age has been a factor yet. So I'm going to trust him until he proves otherwise.
Yeah, and look at Anquan Bolden. We just mentioned him. He's 33 years old, so last year he was 32, and he put up good numbers.
Yeah, absolutely.
Speaking of the 49ers, look at that segue. Blaine Gabbert went to San Francisco, 0 fantasy impact, even if Colin Kaepernick trips over his huge pile of money and twists an ankle.
Yeah, even then, you just don't trust Gabbert to make any impact, even if he's a starter. So.
Yeah, anywhere. I mean, he could be... I don't think I would take him in a backyard football game.
It depends on what other options you're going to give me at quarterback.
I would take
I know
you
a couple.
before him.
Yeah, I know a couple guys that can sling it better than Blaine Gabbert, probably. So I wouldn't. Yeah, you might be right.
All right. Well, let's move on to free agency. And I lost my free agency tracker, but let me just pull it up real quick. I know we'll start off with the one I know off the top of my head. Deshaun Jackson going to Washington.
Sure, absolutely. No better place to start. I could see it. I don't know. I'm skeptical of Deshaun Jackson, but it's because I'm skeptical of Robert Griffin. He's in a bit of a show me year where it's a lot of people just like the person that he is and like his personality, which is all fine and dandy, but it doesn't really translate into fantasy points. It doesn't translate into winning. And I understand that he was off an ACL, LCL injury, but at the same time, I just not sure how much I trust Robert Griffin, and as an extension, I'm not sure how much I trust Deshaun Jackson moving. And he's one of those receivers that we talked about as well that could have some egotistical issues going on, and have some off-the-field issues. It certainly came up in his release from the Eagles. So
Yeah, and he wasn't even technically a free agent. They just dropped him, and then he became a free agent. He wasn't one going into the year.
yeah, exactly. He just got straight up cut.
But yeah, I mean, he's got Pierre Garçon to take away some of the attention. So I mean, I say his value does go down coming off of his pretty much best season with the Chip Kelly offense. It does go down. But I think last year he was going in. I think you took him in our league in the 5th or 6th round.
Yeah, I took him in the 5th.
And you got mocked a little bit for that.
Yeah, he certainly would be kept right now if it wasn't for the city change.
Yeah,
because he was perfect in the system. But like I said, I don't trust him all that much with the new quarterback and with the system that doesn't run 135 plays a game. So
yeah, okay. So we'll stick to wide receiver since we start with that. Steve Smith going to the Ravens. I actually kind of like that move.
I love it.
A little bit.
Yeah, I love it. Steve Smith is an impact player. It's just the way it is. And he will be until the day he dies. Because I think he might die before he retires from football.
I was going to say he's an ageless wonder. He's 34 years old. You'd never know it.
Exactly. He's always making an impact.
Bottom line.
As long as you throw him the ball, 89 bottom line. Yeah. And, I mean, it's not like Flacco has a shortage of arm strength. Steve Smith can run forever, and Joe Flacco won't overthrow him. He's an impact player. He's an impact player in the slot. He's an impact player short. He's an impact player deep. I mean, I don't think that this affects his fantasy value at all.
No, I think if anything, it actually makes it a little better.
Sure, absolutely.
You got Eric Decker going to the Jets. That's definitely going to be a drop-off. Anytime you go from being, I mean, even though he's technically the third receiver on the Broncos, they always had 3 receivers on the field. So he was always a starter with a Peyton Manning offense. Anytime you go from that to a maybe Geno Smith, maybe Michael Vick offense, I'm going to say I would go as far as, unless he really drops in your draft, I'm not even going to draft him.
Well, that's an interesting. I mean, so you're way low on him. That's. Yeah. I mean, I don't know if I'm that low. I guess that's right. I mean,
you don't have to agree.
Yeah, no. I mean,
I like to think I'm right a lot, but.
But the fact of the matter is, I am agreeing. You go from Peyton Manning, who throws you open when you're not, to Geno Smith / Michael Vick, who are probably going to throw you not open when you are. So, yeah. I mean, it's completely the opposite and not the ideal situation.
He'll have more catches from balls being fumbled into the air than he will from...
Yeah, that's fair.
From normal catches. You got James Jones going from Green Bay to Oakland. That same thing, kind of. I mean, his value I don't think was that high off the bat. And then leaving Aaron Rodgers and going to Matt Schaub or whoever, it's never going to help your value.
Yeah.
I mean,
he's the number one.
Yeah.
But I don't know how much of an impact number one in that offense is. But it doesn't hurt to have a number one wide receiver. So he's certainly worth drafting.
Right.
But I don't know.
But not early.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, his value does drop a little bit. Golden Tate went from Seattle to Detroit. I actually think this helps his value.
For sure.
Detroit throws it an awful lot.
Yeah. And they changed coaches, but they also promoted a wide receivers or a quarterbacks coach to an offensive coordinator. So I would certainly think that they're still gonna chuck it.
Well, anytime you have Megatron, you're gonna chuck it, I would think.
Yeah, for sure, absolutely. And then anytime you have Megatron on your opposite side, you're going to benefit from it. So,
yeah, I agree.
Yeah.
Hakeem Nicks going from the Giants to the Colts on a 1-year deal.
Hakeem Nicks is who Hakeem Nicks is, I guess.
Can I ask you how old you think he is?
How old I think Hakeem Nicks is?
Yeah.
I feel like he's been killing the Eagles for a long time. 31-ish?
He's 26 years old.
Oh, well.
He's
Turns
26.
out I have no credentials to be on this show.
Well, no, here's the thing. He's a 26-year-old in a 31-year-old's body. He's always getting hurt. I mean, you think he's 31 because he's never on the field.
Yeah, absolutely.
So I mean, I don't think it
that's
hurts his value, but he's not that high on my wide receiver list to begin with.
Yeah, and like I said, yeah, I kind of mentioned a little bit. I said he is who he is, which you just implemented right there and cemented in the sense that he's always hurt.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
you're probably not going to get a full season out of him, which is frustrating.
He
or
might.
even worse, you'll get a season worth of questionable / probable. You don't know if you're going to play him or not when it comes to 12:55, and you don't know who to put in.
Yeah, I mean, he might be a good bye week guy if he happens to be healthy that week that your guy's on a bye.
Yeah, I agree.
Emmanuel Sanders going from Pittsburgh to Denver, who is actually older than Hakeem Nicks. He's 27.
Yeah?
Yeah, you'd never know it.
This could be
It helps.
the bizarro Eric Decker effect in the sense that he goes from somewhere that doesn't throw that much to Peyton Manning.
Yeah.
He's proven it time and time again. He doesn't really care who he's throwing it to, but he's going to make him productive.
Yeah. Let's breeze through some of these other ones. Like we had already mentioned Miles Austin. Avoid. I had him last year on my team, and I was thinking maybe he'd be a nice little sneak play every once in a while, and he always has some type of injury. Hamstring is one of the major ones.
Yep.
Andre Roberts going from Arizona to Washington. Not much value there, especially with Pierre and Deshaun. Yeah. Also being on the team.
Not particularly.
Brandon LaFell going from Carolina to New England.
I like the way Brandon LaFell is just because he's so big.
Yeah, he's pretty young too. He's 27.
Yeah,
I feel like I thought he was younger.
What's up?
I thought he was younger than that, but I guess not.
Yeah, it took him a little while to come out and really to shine, I guess. But I mean, even with the size, if you're talking red zone in New England, you're going to talk Gronkowski for as long as Gronkowski's healthy. So
yeah, which we'll get into in a second. Yeah, I mean, maybe a wide receiver like 5, 6.
Yeah.
All right, next you got that. I'll just pick out of these 4 guys.
Yeah, that's a good idea. Because I mean, there's just for time purposes, there's absolutely no quarterbacks worth even talking about, so we don't have to worry about that. But maybe there's a couple running backs to talk about.
So you got Devin Hester, Kenny Britt, Santonio Holmes, who's not on the team right now, Dexter McCluster, and Lance Moore. Lance Moore going to Pittsburgh, McCluster going to Tennessee, which is interesting because he's listed as a wide receiver, but he's also done running back stuff. And they don't really have a running back.
He could very well turn right into the running back, yeah.
Yeah, so PPR leagues, I'd actually think about him. Kenny Britt never panned out for Tennessee, and I don't think he's going to pan out in St. Louis. And then Devin Hester's 31 years old, so I'd probably say no with him too.
Yeah, you just had a trouble even making any impact at all with the moved up kickoffs and things like that. He's fun to watch, but
yeah, he's
tough to get the ball to.
So moving on to running backs, Chris Johnson went from Tennessee to New York. I don't know.
I don't. He's their number one. I assume he's going to be their number one.
Yeah, I would think. I would say it does help his value.
Oh, for sure. I would think.
Yeah, I don't think he's maybe a 4th or 5th rounder.
Yeah, I mean, I had Chris Johnson 1 year. It's just so frustrating because he'll have that way he works is he'll have 5 carries in a row and he'll go 2 yard, 2 yard, negative 2 yard, 85 yards for a touchdown.
Yeah.
So I mean that's just the way he works. So he's really hit or miss. So I mean that just. If you're willing to live with that, then you draft Chris Johnson. If you've already had Chris Johnson before in a league, you probably won't be drafting him again.
Yeah, that's the truth. Noshawn Moreno going from Denver to Miami.
Yeah, I'm not excited about that.
Yeah, he should have stayed in Denver.
Yeah. I would avoid him actually.
Yeah, I think he's going to be overdrafted. A lot of people
probably won't because of who he was last year, but I'm calling product of the system on this one.
I agree. I actually agree with you on that. MJD, 1 year shy of the age of 30, going from Jacksonville to Oakland. Darren McFadden is still in Oakland, so I would probably avoid him as well. But the thing I will say is Darren McFadden's going to get hurt at some point, so there will be a time when MJD is probably the only... I mean, he's had a little bit of health issue too recently, but not as much as Darren McFadden.
Yeah, maybe because he won't be the primary guy, so maybe rested. He'll be somebody who gets some touches and is fresh and makes an impact. I think he's one of the better handcuff options for sure around the league.
If you take McFadden, I'd take MJD.
Absolutely, I would.
Donald Brown going from the Colts to San Diego. I would say this hurts. It doesn't really do anything to him, actually, because now the Colts have the hell is his name that they traded for from the Browns? I'm drawing
Trent Richardson.
Yes, thank you. Brain fart. They have him, so it doesn't really matter. And San Diego has Ryan Matthews, so I mean he's kind of another maybe handcuff.
Yeah, Matthews is a little bit more injury. I guess Trent Richardson's pretty injury prone himself, but Donald Brown he'll have his games, but for an entire season, he's not really somebody you can ride and count on.
Yeah, Matthews is the same kind of as McFadden. He will get hurt at some point. So I mean, it all depends what Brown does with that opportunity. But it's for some reason they really liked Matthews last year in San Diego, so that kind of scares me a little bit.
Yeah, well, it won me a championship, so I enjoyed it.
We briefly touched on Ben Tate going from Houston to Cleveland. I actually like this, depending where you start seeing him go. I'm not going to reach too early on him, but he's going to be a starting running back. He will at some point at least have Johnny Manziel behind him, and if they start running like a spread option type of thing or a read option, he's going to get some yards.
Yeah, that's an interesting thought. I hadn't even thought of that with like the spread option, read option type thing.
It's not like Houston was that powerhouse of a run. I mean, Arian Foster's very good, and Houston's had good running backs in the past, but I think Ben Tate is pretty legit, and he's only 26.
Yeah, I would agree. The age, it wouldn't be an issue for me at all. I had Ben Tate last year. It was frustrating just because they didn't really decide on who their running back was going to be. It was a different guy every day, but when he played, he was certainly capable of making an impact. And like you said, he doesn't really have anybody in front of him now, so
yeah,
I think it helps him.
Yeah, I agree. I'll go through a couple more real quick. Rashad Jennings going to the Giants from Oakland, really not much of an impact, I wouldn't think. Andre Brown's going to be starting there, right?
Sure.
I would think.
Well, Andre Brown went to Houston, actually, but they have...
Oh, yeah, I'm sorry. I didn't get that far down the list.
Yeah, but I'm just not sure about their running game in general.
Yeah,
so.
I guess you could take a flyer on them, because the Giants do like to try and run the ball.
Yeah, just not all that successfully.
Yeah, and I mean, they do have David Wilson, but
I
don't like him because as soon as I got him last year, he got hurt the next day. So
yeah, rip him off.
LeGarrette Blount leaving New England, going to Pittsburgh. I'm not sure I like that. I think that's another system one. Plus, he has Le'Veon Bell, who they seem to like last year.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, you said it better than I could. I echo everything you got.
This one's interesting. Toby Gerhart going to Jacksonville.
Yeah, I like that. I happen to like Toby Gerhart as a player. He runs hard.
He's like a Mike Allstott.
He's going to give you everything he's got. Yeah, exactly.
Maybe not as big.
And now he's got a little bit something to prove at this point. And he's got nothing in front of him. Unless you want to count Denard Robinson as something, but he's not. That was a joke that I made. So, yeah, I mean, it's all Toby Gerhart. It's the Toby Gerhart show, essentially. Jordan Todman was supposed to be a sleeper last year, but he never really panned out. Maybe they'll start giving him more touches, but like I said, Toby Gerhart runs hard.
Yeah, I think he's going to...
Yeah.
I was just going to say, I think he's going to be like a Peyton Hillis, maybe even. Just getting a lot of touches. So
yeah, for sure. And he's got something to prove. I mean, he's been behind Adrian Peterson for so long. He's probably one of the guys that's older than you think he is, just because he hasn't made too much of an impact so far. He's been sitting behind the best running back in the league for so long.
Yeah, and I mean, he's done pretty decent with what he got from, when Peterson missed a few games. So yeah, I do like Toby Gerhart. I think he's going to slip a little bit. You might be able to get a little bit of a sleeper deal there.
Yeah, I agree.
He's only 27, and he has probably the miles on him of like a 25, 26-year-old. Because like you said,
sure, absolutely,
he's behind Adrian Peterson. Quarterbacks, you had said there's really not any. Let me just take a quick look here. I'm just trying to see if there's any that might start. I mean, Michael Vick might start. Sanchez is not going to start. Josh Freeman's not going to start. McCown? Maybe? Do you think
maybe
he could start in Tampa Bay?
Maybe.
But I wouldn't draft him. Vic, I would draft.
I mean, he's certainly, I think the only reason that we're talking about. Oh, yeah, sure. But I would also, I don't know. It's interesting to always talk about Vic and Geno Smith, like situations like that where quarterbacks are kind of in the same spot or in a quarterback competition. Right. I would even throw McCown in there in a sense. Maybe not. But Mike Glennon is a guy that they drafted early, so he certainly has an idea of, or they might have plans for him, but maybe not because they changed coaches and Lovie Smith brought in Josh McCown. So
yeah, exactly. So
he's definitely somebody worth picking up, I would think. So it would be Vic and McCown for sure.
Yeah, off of that list.
In a group that otherwise really hasn't made an impact.
Yeah, and really only one tight end. You got Owen Daniels going to Baltimore. Very little impact, and plus they have why am I terrible at names today? He's on our injury list.
But I think Dennis Pitt is the name you're thinking of.
There it is.
Yeah.
He's on our injury list. So little impact with Owen Daniels, unless somebody gets hurt.
Yeah, for sure. But I like Pitta a lot more than I like Owen Daniels.
Yeah. I agree. All right, well, do you want to take us through the injuries then real quick? It's 8 o'clock, but we can go a little bit over.
Yeah, we'll go a little bit over. I have a couple names on each position list, but for the sake of time, we're just going to go over. I'll just go over one guy from each list, and then we're going to do a little bit of a red, green, yellow thing here, where green, go for it, yellow, stay cautious, and red, avoid, just for our artistic portion of our show, and decide what type of color we want to put with the person.
Yeah, and when we start doing weekly shows, we'll make this, kind of a weekly thing with injury reports and see, because it's pretty early and you might not know a lot until you start getting into training camp.
Yeah, for sure, absolutely. This is just kind of off-season stuff to go over and talk about. So with the quarterbacks, the big one to me is Robert Griffin with the quarterbacks. His injury was kind of 2 years ago, but at the same time, it feels like it was
yesterday.
This year. Yeah, exactly. Just because he hasn't really proven anything, and he's kind of everybody's still talking about it. He just came out recently and said, "I'm not going to wear a knee brace," which is still talking about the injury that he had 2 years ago. So,
for me,
I mentioned it when we were talking about the Sean. Go ahead.
No, I was just going to say for me, I'd love to have him on my team, but I would love for him to fall in the draft so I could take him.
For sure. I think I wouldn't even I wouldn't take him as a number one quarterback.
No.
Like I would take him as a number two. He'd be a really good number two to have. But me saying that I wouldn't take him as a number one quarterback makes me think I'm not going to get him because somebody else probably will.
Yeah, I would take him as my number one under certain circumstances. I know last year a lot of quarterbacks, a lot of people waited on quarterbacks. You had your big 3 or 4 that got taken early, and then you waited till round 6 or 7 until you took a guy like Russell Wilson or somebody like that. I would take Russell Wilson or Colin Kaepernick before RG3. So for me, he's more of the yellow.
I would agree 100%.
Yeah, he's not a red. He's a yellow.
Yellow into red. What is that?
Orange.
What is that? Orange when you combine yellow and red? I think. So I'm very cautious on him just because he has something to prove to me, which is very pompous of me to say. But I'm just not sure on
prove
him.
Yourself
to be honest.
For me, I'm a little less cautious about him than you are. I like him a little more, only because if he does stay on the field and does stay healthy, and actually use this off season to do a little more recovery, he has a lot of upside. That's what I like about him.
Yeah, for sure, absolutely.
I would take him over Tony Romo or Eli Manning.
Yeah, I would agree with that.
Okay.
100%. And then in the running back category, there's actually a bunch of bigger name running backs, so I'm going to go through these 4 that I have listed and then throw it over to you, and you can talk about which running back you want to talk about, and then I'll talk about a different one just so we can cover
Sure.
a little bit more ground. The 4 that I have here are Arian Foster, who had a back injury, obviously. Doug Martin coming off a shoulder injury. Peterson is coming off a groin injury where he's had surgery in 3 straight off seasons now, so there's maybe a little bit of concern there. And then Spiller, we talked about a little bit, who's a burner but has an ankle injury, and it's kind of negated his speed last year. So
Right.
go ahead and pick one out. And
I'm
give your
I'm going to start off with Dougie Martin.
Works for me.
With him, I'm not worried so much about his injury because I think I read that he's pretty well healed from that because they shut him down early enough and he got the surgery. But I will say that I think because of his injury, and I even had read that they're going to be lightening his load a little bit and not giving him the ball as much, which kind of scares me a little bit that they're already saying that. Now, that could be them just saying that because he got hurt, and they don't want to do that. But it is a new coach. So that does scare me a little bit with Lovie Smith coming in. So for me, he's actually a little bit of a yellow, and he's not, I don't even know that I would put him in my top 7 or 8 running backs.
Yeah, which definitely is a difference from what the so-called experts are saying. So you're definitely more on the cautious side of the fence, which is it's a good, not a bad place to be, and I'm not disagreeing with you. But it's mainly because I had him last year, and I went through that thing where they were so back and forth. So I got kind of tired with it.
Yeah.
I'll go with, who will I go with? I'll go with Peterson. And it might be just because I want to be a bit of a shock jock here, but I'm not 100% sure on Adrian Peterson. Saying that, I'm probably still going to go Green just because he is Adrian Peterson and he's proven that he can come back from injury. But 3 straight surgeries is definitely a cause for concern for me. And it was being a groin injury. The groin is always connected to the legs and things like that, so you never know where the irritation could be. So it is still green, but it's not as bright green as you might think. And just being aware of his injuries. And a lot of people still have him number 1, so I guess the point I'm trying to make is I wouldn't take him number 1 if I had the number 1 pick.
I would take Charles or McCoy.
Yeah. Yeah, I would probably take McCoy, so that might be a debate for a later day that we could talk about. And a different show.
Yeah.
But the point is I wouldn't take Peterson. I don't think at this point.
Yeah, he's a green for me. I'm not worried about him. If he's there at 2 or 3, I'm taking him.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, that's definitely a good route to go, and he's a good cornerstone for a team. Wide receiver, I'm going to talk about. I'm going to go with Wes Welker because he's a slot guy who has had a couple concussions. So he's a slot guy that's going to continue to run into the slot and get hit. So that honestly concerns me. People have been saying that he's good to go and he's been perfectly fine running around and things like that. But at the same time, in my opinion, guys that have had concussions before are more susceptible to having more concussions.
Yeah.
So he's shown up a bit of a red flag for me. I would go yellow with him, a little bit cautious. I probably wouldn't take him as high as he's projected or as high as he's currently being drafted in all the mocks and stuff like that.
Yeah, I agree. I think he's going to be a little overvalued this year. He did start to fall off a little bit at the end of last year. I'm going to pick Reggie Wayne because I really want to. I want to do red for somebody. So Reggie Wayne is a red.
Yeah, okay.
He's a guy coming off an ACL tear. He's a 35-year-old guy coming off an ACL tear. So that really tells me all I need to know.
Yeah, that's fair. He's a little bit of a super healer, not necessarily at the level that Adrian Peterson is, but he has proven that he can bounce back from injury. I can see where you're coming from in the red. I might go yellow. I certainly wouldn't go green for sure. Mm-hmm. I'd go. We talked about the mixing and matching the old orange with Robert Griffin. I might go orange with Reggie Wayne as well. Just because I know he can be productive and I've seen him be productive. But an ACL is definitely a scary injury to come back from, especially as a 35-year-old man. So
Yeah, always tough. Unless you're Adrian
Yeah.
Peterson and you're just a freak of nature.
exactly. And then with tight end, we might as well change the position name from tight end to Gronkowski when we talk injuries. So Gronkowski. I think that I would. This is a tough one for me. I set up this whole segment, and now I'm putting myself into a corner because I'm not sure where to go. But I would go. I think I would still go green with Gronkowski. I would get a really good backup though, because he's kind of proven that he is susceptible to injury for sure. So I would have a very high quality backup, but I'm not shying away from Gronkowski just because I know what Gronkowski can do.
All right, Gronkowski for me would be a green if he was not on my team last year and I had to sit there and watch him on my bench for half the year. So for me, he's a yellow because his upside is obviously fantastic.
Yeah.
They're saying they think he'll be ready for week 1,
Yeah.
but they also thought he might be ready for week 1 last year. I mean, they weren't totally sure, but so, I mean, I think I had read somewhere that he's probably going to start on the PUP list again. I don't remember. So, I mean, we'll see what happens when training camp comes. He's a yellow for me, though. But, if it's one of those things, though, like last year where, the doctor says he's okay, but his camp or whatever wants him to wait a few weeks, you're going to need a better backup than you think.
Yeah, I agree.
That's my only caution with him.
Yeah, absolutely. I think we're on common ground there, where you just get a quality backup, which is at the same time that's not an ideal draft strategy where you're picking up 2 tight ends early because you're gonna go early to get Gronkowski, and then if you want to get a quality backup, you might have to go early again. But
yeah, and if you do get a backup, you need to make sure their bye week is after probably I would say week 6, just in case he's not back yet.
Sure, absolutely.
Because it was an ACL and was it MCL or LCL? I forget.
I'm not 100% sure what it was. It was some kind of CL leg injury thing. So.
Yeah, there were 2 CLs that were torn. That's never good. I'll ask my wife. She's a nurse. She can probably explain to me the difference.
Yeah. Cool.
Is that it then for tight
that's
ends?
what we got for. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. I mean, that's Gronkowski's really. We had Pitta was in there, but we kind of talked about Pitta when we were talking about Owen Daniels. So
yeah,
he's on the road back.
Okay.
Jordan Reed is a bit in the same category as Wes Welker in the concussion realm.
He's a special talent, though. I actually like him.
Yeah, I like him a lot. But like I said, with Welker, my concern is one concussion could mean, or multiple concussions in his case could mean you're more susceptible to more concussions. So
yeah, no, you're totally right.
I would be worried, but he's definitely a good talent.
All right, cool. Well, that is it for this show. We're going to come back probably at the beginning of July, like I said, either the first or second Wednesday in July, and then we'll start talking about ranks. We'll start getting into ranks. This was kind of just a catch you up on everything that happened in the offseason and even catch ourselves up, because some of the stuff when I was reading I had forgot about because it happened so long ago.
Yeah, absolutely. It's fun to the MJD to Oakland. It was Oakland, right? Where the MJD.
Yeah.
That caught me off guard, and even hearing it again, you say it today, it caught me off guard. So.
Yeah, so we will we'll come back. Like I said, in a few weeks, we'll talk about rankings, and then we're gonna do a thing where we're gonna do a segment called Over Under, which is that each week we're gonna pick a different position. We're gonna take a look at what they did last year, barring injury, and let you know if we think they're going to do better or worse than that this year. And then we'll also get into like draft strategies and stuff like that. Once it gets a little closer, we still got a while before camp even starts. So follow Steve on Twitter. Steve, what's your Twitter again?
It's srichards31.
Okay, and then I'm at Adam Next Level, and then of course you can follow the station at NXT Level Radio. Check us out, nextlevelradioonline.com, facebook.com/nextlevelradio. Subscribe to us on iTunes and YouTube. This way you can listen to all the shows that we have, Next Level Showcast, Primetime Fantasy Football, and whatnot, and all our interviews that we do with these special celebrity guests. You definitely want to check those out. Other than that, I think that's it. Let us know if you're interested, by the way, in the Fantasy Football League. Email us primetime at primetime at nextlevelradioonline.com. Give us your name, and then if you're interested, and let us know. And then we'll go from there. We'll see how much interest we get. And then, obviously, if you have any questions you want us to answer on the next show or the next couple shows, email us primetime at nextlevelradioonline.com, and we'll do our best to answer all those questions that you guys have. Other than that, Steve, you got anything else?
Yeah, I mean, you pretty much said it all. I'd like to emphasize the point of emailing the show because, I mean, obviously the show wouldn't exist if we don't have any listeners. So that's an important part. So feel free to email whatever you want us to talk about, and we'll really dig into it and cover it, and make it a show of the people.
Yeah, and get them in while you can now, where maybe not everybody is emailing, because I know a lot of times people email the larger shows and stuff like that, and stuff almost never gets answered. So we'll try and answer pretty much every email we get, as long as we're not flooded. I don't think we will be in this first week, maybe halfway through the season, but definitely email us primetime at nextlevelradioonline.com.
Absolutely, love it.
All right.
I appreciate you inviting me on, and I look forward to the season and talking about it more. It'll be exciting.
Definitely. All right. Well, like I said, check us out, nextlevelradioonline.com. And keep an eye on the Facebook and Twitter for when we're going to be coming back, like I said, July 2nd or July 9th. But that's it. Take it easy, and good luck with, if you're drafting before July 2nd, you need to join a new league. Good luck if you do. And like I said, just email us. That's it.
Awesome.
All right. Take it easy, guys.
Have a good one, guys.
People I never knew, people I never thought